point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week. Welcome to our 311th edition. And today is the 4th of April, 2019. I am George Harvey, and this over here is the amazing Tom Fennell, who hasn't even got himself on. There he is.
I'll put myself up here.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello there, people.
There you go. I want to start out with just a second about identity theft. I had 2 cases of identity theft.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, isn't that terrible? My bank or my credit card company called and said, "Did you make these charges?" And no, I didn't. So they covered me on it. But the other one, I got a photograph of the person doing the thing, and I'm going to shame him on public television.
Fill me in.
Okay, you want to put the picture up where it says Energy Week? Just put that up, because I'm going to give this to everybody.
Oh, come on, you're supposed to go
there. There you go.
And then there.
And here,
well, come on.
There you go. Here is the guy who has stolen my identity. He is not going to be a successful George Harvey impersonator. He's too short. And not that I'm tall, it's just that he's 4'10". That, by the way, in case anybody's interested, is Danny DeVito. And I don't think he was actually purposely trying to impersonate me.
Well, the horn-rimmed glasses and the beard would do it. You give him a beard, or you start wearing a horn rim.
Well, I wear glasses sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyway,
strong resemblance there.
We should get to going on the show.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to put that back to where it was. There you go.
There we
go.
And
so every day I go to the internet, find the news that is current for the day on energy and climate change. I package together a synopsis of each item I find interesting with a link to the original article, and I put together about 10 to 15 of these at a blog called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And if you go there, you can click on the calendar for the date that we will try to keep you updated on as we go through here. And you can find these articles. And we start, today being the 4th of April, we start a week ago today, which was the 28th of March. So you'd have to go to the previous month if you're watching this in April. You can't watch it in March because that's already gone by.
March is gone.
Okay, and we have a picture to start with.
Yeah, we do.
And I'm going to go past Danny DeVito to the picture, and we have an item from CNN.
Well,
but you usually have a spiel at the beginning.
Tell them that we got some good articles for you.
Yeah.
Some of them, on their own merits, could justify a whole show.
Yeah.
So we have decided not to do that unless every once in a while we do a special.
Yep. We will today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Anyway, there is an item from CNN.
Well, that picture there that's up is a part of Greenland called Jakobshavn.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that right now.
Yes. What do you got for a title, Tom?
Greenland's most critical glacier is suddenly gaining ice, but that might not be a good thing.
Greenland's largest and most critical glacier, Jakobshavn, is gaining ice, according to NASA researchers. This might sound like good news, but the reason for the ice accumulation might spell disaster in the long run.
Well, I usually say a little bit something about these things. This is another CNN derivative, and we have found that CNN usually is almost always worth visiting.
Oh, yeah.
And this one has a great interactive video on global warming.
Yeah.
And it's not too long. None of these things are too long, but this is a nice one. It shows you some scary things and some pretty things, and it's the ice, the rate that this is why it might not be a good thing. The rate that the ice is melting into the ocean is greater than the rate that the ice is accumulating further up.
The rate at which it's melting into the ocean from further up.
From the bottom.
Oh, from the bottom.
Is greater than where it's accumulating ice up top.
Well, what I got out of this article was the glacier, the mouth of the glacier is thickening. But that one glacier, if it melted completely, would raise the oceans 2 feet.
I'm just about to say that. The glacier controls a basin with enough ice that if melted fully would raise global oceans by 2 feet.
And we have reported that at 18 inches, Miami will be unlivable.
Well, most of Manhattan's going to be gone too.
Yeah, 2 feet
Greenland's
isn't
overall ice. This is the bad news. Their overall ice loss has increased dramatically in the last 2 decades.
Yep.
From shedding an average of 34 gigatons per year up until 2001 to about 280 gigatons annually since 2002.
Wow.
Just putting that into perspective, that's enough meltwater for every person on the planet to drink 450 glasses of water every day. a little bit of trivia there.
I'm not sure that clarifies the issue at all for me, but nevertheless, there we
got another one coming up.
We do, and this is from DeSmog.
I guess we'll put both of us here for the time being.
DeSmog. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to Danny DeVito. That way, when this is edited downstairs, Brian is going to be able to get a picture of the two of us with him. Okay. What do you got?
What do I got coming up? Trump's clean car rollbacks would cost drivers more money.
Yeah.
Finds a surprise to Bush-era official.
Yep. A study by President George W. Bush's anti-regulatory czar found that the current fuel efficiency and emissions standards are good for the economy as a whole, mostly due to the significant savings American drivers will see at the pump.
Well, there's an image on this website.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of a gas station with a sign up says, gas prices, regular and arm, medium a leg, and premium firstborn.
Yes.
And from the study, the positive effects on the economy are ultimately much larger in magnitude than the negative impacts, primarily because the savings in expenditures on fuel are quite large.
Yes. And another thing that we should mention here is the negative impacts on the economy all happen, or not all, but most of them happen in one set of industries, and that's the fossil fuels industry.
Fossil fuel. That's just what my next sentence was going to basically say that in different words.
Yeah.
The only true beneficiaries of Trump's rollbacks would be the companies who produce, refine, and sell the petroleum products. Okay.
Okay.
And as a final takeaway, this one is something you could dig, you can follow. The CEO of Marathon Oil is one of the biggies. Mm-hmm. Okay, we don't know much about them, but they're pretty big. Recently claimed that the proposed Trump rollback would result in an additional 350 to 400,000 barrels of gasoline per day consumed by American drivers. Mm-hmm. Just by the rollbacks.
And one of the things that's scary about that is when the parade stops, there's going to be a sudden, it reminds me of Ross Perot and the sudden sucking sound of jobs going to Mexico.
Yeah.
This is when the parade stops, as I said, there's going to be a lot of people who are suddenly very disappointed.
There's going to be a lot of consequences.
And there are people who are benefiting from this today, they think. Okay.
Well, we got another picture coming up.
We do indeed. This is a Tesla Model 3 out in the woods someplace.
See if I can't put it up there.
You will do that. There it is.
And
this item is from Clean Technica.
As you said, that's a Tesla Model 3.
Yep.
Electric vehicles are driving rates down. How do EVs impact electricity rates? Well, that's a valid question.
Yeah. Some people believe that charging electric vehicles will necessarily stress the electric grid, resulting in costly upgrades that drive up electric rates. Analysis conducted by Synapse Energy Economics found the opposite has been observed in the real world.
This is interesting. This is from the article.
I do look like
EV customers are not being subsidized by other customers, and in fact are putting downward pressure on rates.
On rates.
Okay. Yeah. EV, and there's a reason why. EVs generally charge overnight.
Yep.
Okay, when people are sleeping,
power.
There's plenty of capacity on the grid.
Yep.
So they're not hurting anybody.
Yep.
They're getting cheap electricity then because it is cheap.
Yep.
And there's plenty of spare capacity on the grid.
Yep. So
the rest of it is editorial. So
okay.
Put it simply, this requires widespread adoption of electric cars, trucks, and buses powered by electricity, increasingly generated from emissions.
Right.
If you watch if you watched this show, you could have written that.
I suppose.
We
are up to Friday, March 29th.
Already?
We are.
My goodness.
And we've got an item here from Renews.
This is an interesting, too. Florida charges ahead with a 400 megawatt battery.
This will be the biggest battery in the world, if it gets there before somebody else makes one bigger.
Yeah, it's 4 times the capacity of the world's present largest operating battery.
Yeah, but there's
which
other
is in
ones.
Australia, which we talked about here.
Hornsdale Power Reserve.
The 409 megawatt facility to be commissioned in late well, you're supposed to say
Yeah,
that.
I am, aren't I? Florida Power and Light is building the world's largest solar-powered battery, 4 times the capacity of the world's largest operating battery in South Australia. The 409 megawatt facility to be commissioned in late 2021 will be charged by an existing Florida Power and Light PV plant in Manatee County.
Well, the Manatee County Energy Storage Center will replace a large, aging fossil fuel plant with a mega battery that's adjacent to a large solar plant.
Yep.
So they know what they're doing.
They do.
It's part of a modernization plan to accelerate the retirement of 70s-era natural gas generating units.
Right.
And as I've said on the show before, it's money.
It's money.
It's economics.
Yep. Okay, we have a photograph.
This is a good start. This is a good story.
It is.
So it's very timely.
This is from BBC.
That's a picture of the Amazon rainforest. And it's rather a pretty picture, isn't it? Young minds solving climate change. Now we've mentioned this before.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear more about it.
You will.
You will.
People of the younger generations understand that there are solutions to the problems of climate change. Quote, the climate crisis has already been solved. We already have all the facts and solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change, end quote.
Say that again.
Quote, the climate crisis has already been solved. We already have all the facts and solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change, end quote. The thing that's interesting about this is that this has come from Nobel Prize nominee Greta Thunberg. I didn't know that
about her
many times. I didn't know that she was a Nobel Prize nominee until I saw this.
It's just recently happened.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I think she's going to get it.
She might. I think she will, to tell you the truth. She was nominated by 3 members of the Norwegian Parliament. And I want to point out, she is not Norwegian. She's Swedish.
Oh, no?
No. She's
Swedish.
Swedish. Yes,
She's
that's right.
Swedish, huh?
That's right. Okay.
Well, this is a good article.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of information suggestions. Quick takeaway. There are many other young, unsung voices across the globe working to create the future they need. We older generations must look to youth for inspiration, motivation, and courage.
Yep.
That says a lot. That
It
really
does.
says a lot.
It does.
We're dropping the ball, and these kids are picking it up.
You and I, Tom, are not dropping the ball. But our generation and the one after it are.
Well, yeah.
Yep. Okay, our next item is from Renew Economy. We're still on March 29th.
Okay. It just took 2 summers for renewables to replace hazelwood. Now they'll have to. Well, you're going to explain what hazelwood is.
Yes. For carbon dioxide pollution, hazelwood is the worst coal power station in Australia, but it was very important for power supplies. the AEMO, which is the Australian
Energy Market Operator.
There you go. Said it would take 8 years to replace it with a coal plant.
I hate all these acronyms.
Yeah, so do I. Particularly the ones in Vermont, because they always start with VE. And it's like, how do you keep them straight? You don't. But it took 2 summers to replace the Hazelwood plant with wind and solar instead of 8 years with coal. And by the way, it would have been 22 years if they'd gone to nuclear power.
Yeah. Well, Hazelwood was one of the most carbon-polluting power stations in the world.
In the world.
It uses brown coal, which we hardly use in this country at all.
Yep.
And that's not even really coal. It's halfway between peat and coal.
Yep.
Okay, there's still plenty of challenges we need to resolve on the path to achieving zero emission. But suggestions that growth of renewables pose an immediate and unavoidable threat to reliability are completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the Australian EMO, the
Energy Market
Operator, which is like ISO New England, except that it's in Australia.
It's exactly the counterpart.
We are up to Saturday, March 30th, with an item from EnergyWorld.com.
It came up already.
There you go.
Magic.
Okay.
Well, that particular picture is of PDPU.
PDPU.
I'll let you guess what that means.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's going to take you a while to guess, but read the title, Tom.
PDPU, to rope in oil companies to harness geothermal energy.
I found this really interesting.
Good article.
Yeah, after a successful pilot project in the Indian state of Gujarat, Pandit Dayal Petroleum University plans to tap a large geothermal source for commercially viable electricity production. This is looking to help from help from oil companies for drilling and exploration. This is going to take a little explanation.
Okay.
You know, this is as it says, it is the Pandit Dayal Petroleum University. This is a place.
That's a school. That's a college.
That's a college.
It looks like a college.
It's there so people can go study how to drill holes in the ground and things like that in order to get fossil fuels, in order to and you know the other technologies that are involved with petroleum specifically, and that would include natural gas. And you can see the nodding donkey or the pump jack there on the right side of that screen, and what these people have done is they've decided they want to save money on power, so they're going to get geothermal.
Well, it turns out that this particular state has ample geothermal.
Ample geothermal. Now, who do they go to for geothermal power? Well, they need somebody who knows how to drill holes in the ground.
So they go to the oil company. There's something funny with that picture there, isn't there? Hey, you go where... You know,
I have a feeling
the guys know what they're doing.
If some of these oil companies are going to get smart, they're going to start using their knowledge to do exactly what's happening here. And there are places in the United States with a lot of geothermal capacity. It's true of other parts of the world. Indonesia has a huge geothermal capacity.
This article says it's 10 gigawatts in India potential.
Yeah,
which is significant.
It's significant, and also. 10 gigawatts of, I don't know what the capacity factor of geothermal is, but it might actually be higher than the capacity factor of nuclear, because you don't have to refuel.
You don't have to shut it down for a month to refuel.
In the United States, nuclear plants generally run about 92% of the time. In the rest of the world, it's more like 83, 84% of the time. But these geothermal
refueling
plants,
is a complicated operation.
Yep,
it takes time.
Yep, geothermal plants, you get them in and they just run flat out, as I understand it, all the time for as long as you want them to go. And unlike some of the other baseload power systems, some of the geothermal designs anyway can be scaled back so they can respond to grid demand much more flexibly than some of these other things.
Well, I would imagine that'd be a lot easier to do than increasing the geothermal. You know, this is your maximum. You don't take the max all the time. You take it as you need it.
That's right.
So we got another one here from Fierce Telecom.
This is this is really, really interesting. This item from Fierce Telecom. What's the title?
Deutsche Telekom tees up new renewable energy targets.
Deutsche Telekom says that it plans to cover all of its electricity needs with renewable sources by 2021.
Well, as its name suggests, it's a telephone company.
Yeah. And that includes energy for T-Mobile in the United States, which
Apparently
is
they
a
own
wholly owned
T-Mobile.
subsidiary. It revised the previous target by Deutsche Telecom to reduce emissions by 20% by 2020 compared to those of 2018. So what they've done is they've ditched their old plan and they've taken on a new one. The old plan was a 20% reduction by 2020, which is what, 9 months from now?
It's coming quick.
And the new plan is 100% by 2021, which is less than 2 years from now. Now, obviously, they're not going to get there unless they fill the first plan anyway. And I have a feeling that they've already filled it. I didn't look, but
I'm
there
sorry.
you go.
I'm trying to read what I got written down here, so I missed what you said. Well, let's move on.
Okay. We have an item from Clean Technica and a
picture.
picture. This is the Walney Extension, which is, as I understand it, the largest offshore wind farm in the world. But
it is that as of yesterday.
As of yesterday.
That's the Walney Extension. It's not in the North Sea. It's in the Irish Sea. It's off by the Isle of Man.
Yes.
On the west coast of northern England.
I had ancestors from the Isle of Man.
So you're a Manx.
Well, partly. My mother's father was a man named William Kennish, who was a Manx.
William who?
Kennish.
Kennish.
And he was a Manx poet.
Okay.
He wrote in Manx and in English, and he.
Manx is Gaelic.
It's it's a Gaelic language. It's simpler than the Irish or Scottish versions, and it's not as mutually comprehensible as but it's and it actually was extinct as a native language. It's coming back because people are doing that. But
I visited Ireland several times, you know, and I was down in the Dingle Peninsula more than once.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy who had a large boat. Matter of fact, that was why I was talking to him.
Yeah.
We wanted to get out to an island.
Yeah.
Which we couldn't because the seas were too hard.
Yeah.
But he was talking about an adventure that he and a few people have. You're familiar with an Irish boat called the Curragh?
Yes.
It's a large rowboat, very large rowboat.
Yeah.
It takes about 8 to 10 men in
Yep.
it. Well, him and a bunch of guys got into a Curragh. No outboard motor, no nothing.
Yeah.
And they went around Ireland and Isle of Man and Scotland talking to groups who spoke Gaelic. Because these guys all spoke Gaelic.
Yeah.
And
by the time
they were able to understand each other, he said.
Yeah.
You know, it's different. He says, but we were able to make ourselves known.
Well, we should. What do you have for a title for this?
UK renewables generate record levels of electricity in 2018.
Well, this is hardly a surprise. Provincial figures published by the UK government show that renewable energy sources generated a record 33% of electricity in 2018, increasing by 11.8% over 2017 levels, led by a record year for wind energy generation, which provided 17.1% of the UK's electricity. We saw this coming, but we're going to get back to this later in the show.
Yes, we will. We'll be hitting this again.
Yeah, we will be, and maybe we should just move on, because when we hit it again, it's going to, just remember, what we're talking about here is 33% in 2018, which is up by almost 12% from 2017. This is fast growing. Okay. We are up to Sunday, March 31st.
Yeah, I was just looking. All I got here is a bunch of numbers, so we'll hit them again.
Yeah. This item, first item on Sunday, March 31st, is from CNN.
Judge rules Trump executive order allowing offshore drilling in the Arctic Ocean unlawful.
Well, wow. Donald Trump did something that was unlawful?
No, by definition, he can't do that.
Yeah, well.
If I do it, it's correct.
Yes. A federal judge in Alaska cited an executive order by President Trump allowing offshore oil drilling of millions of acres in the Arctic Ocean is, quote, unlawful and invalid, end quote. The ruling means a drilling ban protecting Arctic waters will go back into effect.
Well, this is another CNN thing.
Yes, it is.
Like I've said before, they're almost all worth looking at.
Yep.
In this particular case, there's a video showing Trump signing the offshore drilling order, which this judge just overruled.
Yes. Yes. And I should point out the reason why this is illegal is that the order that protected that land was signed into law. It was signed, I shouldn't say into law, but it was signed under a law
by a president.
By President Obama.
Yeah.
And of course, Donald Trump has been trying to undo everything that Obama did. But
by definition,
at least that's what it appears to be. But what the judge said
it looks
was,
like that to me.
The law authorized the president to protect the land, but the law did not contain any provision of allowing a president to unprotect the land. So that's what made it illegal.
Okay.
Okay,
that's logical.
We are up to an item from.
Yeah, we got a picture here. Boy, that's a scary picture.
We have an item from Clean Technica.
And that's a Kuwait oil field.
It is. This is an old picture. This goes back to Saddam Hussein setting the oil fields on fire.
Oh, is that what that?
Yeah.
Okay. The massive cost and burden to society and the environment of the internal combustion engine. Interesting article.
It is a very interesting article. The implication of that picture, by the way, is that the value of oil is so high that people get into wars over it. And,
oh yeah,
and of course the dependency, the dependency that we have on oil is something that causes wars. It also causes other problems, and that's what the article is about. The internal combustion engine has transported us for more than 100 years, but with all its convenience, it has the ICE, internal combustion engine, and its necessary companion fossil fuel come to burden us more than it benefits us.
Well, here's some of the burdens.
Yeah.
The ICE and a massive network required to maintain, procure, and defend the fossil fuel to run it have proven to be some of the greatest burdens of modern man. As you just said, war.
War.
Okay.
But also diseases.
Yeah. Lung diseases particularly.
Yeah, and the cost in the United States of these diseases, lung diseases and so forth, is just monumental.
Well, the next one is the propaganda to hide, diffuse, and spread erroneous information about EVs and climate change goes into the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They're spending millions to prove their point, which is unprovable, really.
Actually billions when you get right down to it. Okay.
And the this is a scary one. The lobbying to maintain wars, to control governments, and to buy politicians has shaken the foundations of democracy.
Well, I think we have foundations of democracy severely under risk in the United States right now.
Oh, absolutely. Money talks.
Money talks, and
money is speech.
What we have is a group of people who claim to be patriotic Americans, but they are operating in favor of plutocracy, which is not democracy.
No.
They're just entirely different things. Plutocracy, by the way, is the rule by people with money.
I thought it was a rule by dogs.
That too.
Dogs. You know Pluto.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, of course.
How could anybody not know Pluto unless he's, a child of 46 or less?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Well, we got another one here from the Brisbane Times.
Brisbane Times.
Renewables prove their power.
The electricity industry is changing. In 2017, a global investment in renewable energy was $310 billion, more than double the global investment in fossil-fueled and nuclear electricity combined. Numerous detailed studies suggest that 100% renewable electricity is technically and economically feasible.
Emphasis on economically, because it's happening more and more every day.
If the nuclear and fossil fuels industry's new infrastructure is only half of renewable energy, guess what's happening? We're at the point where things are changing. It's only downhill from here. Well, I shouldn't say that because there are ways that it could be uphill, but it's only downhill, really, in the long run. The oil industry and the nuclear industry are going to be suffering because there's no way they can compete with solar power at $2 at two and a quarter cents per kilowatt hour. We had a
cheap to meter.
Yeah, we had a PPA signed in the last few days for 2.17 cents per kilowatt hour for solar electricity.
So that's a contract.
That's a contract. That is under contract.
Yeah, wow.
How do you compete with that?
Well, according to this article, supporters of coal and nuclear power are disseminating the incorrect claim that 100% renewable electricity is impossible, and that the baseload power stations will always be needed.
Which is
and this
utter
article
nonsense.
goes on to shoot that full of holes.
Utter nonsense. Okay, we're up to Monday, April 1st, with an item from
we got
Science
picture coming up
Alert.
here too.
Alert, Science Alert. Science
We
Alert.
have talked about this before.
Yes, we have many times.
Well, I'll read the title. Huge global study just smashed one of the last major arguments against renewables. As we speak, I'm going to leave that up there for a little
Good
while
idea.
For people to look at it.
Yeah, because we'll talk about this.
Shows you how it works.
Shows you how it works. Here's news for those who believe that there are just a few sites suitable for pumped storage. Scientists have identified 530,000 sites worldwide suitable for pumped storage, capable of storing more than enough electricity to power the entire planet.
Much more.
Much more.
There's a map in this website.
Yeah.
And it shows these logical places.
Yeah.
All over the world.
All over the world.
With the exception of the northern part of Eurasia and the northern part of North America.
Yeah, except for there's one
except
thing
for the
about,
right down the center of the country.
Yeah, there's
it's not
one
good.
thing about that,
Why?
and that is almost all 100% of Russia. They say there's no site, and almost all of Kazakhstan, which is pretty big, no site. And I wonder if that isn't political rather than I just don't understand why there would be no places in Russia.
Well, it's only that it's so far north for some reason. It must have something to do with weather.
It might. I don't
that
know.
was my
but
guess.
I mean, there were more sites in the middle of the Sahara Desert than there were in Russia.
Oh yeah.
But we should look at that picture again.
Bring it back up.
Yeah. I think most people realize that when you have a dam that dams a river or creates a lake, the Hoover Dam or whatever, you have behind that a lot of water that you can put in a pipe under pressure down to a place where it comes out, and that water under pressure creates a lot of it has a lot of power. It'll turn a wheel in a turbine.
There is one of these right down in Vernon.
Yeah, and that turbine will produce a lot of electricity.
They put that thing in there a long time ago.
They put it in at the same time that the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant was being built.
No, this one's earlier than that. They put it in there about 1910 or something.
Oh, you're thinking of the one in Connecticut.
No, in Vernon.
No.
There's a dam in Vernon.
Oh, there's a dam in Vernon. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. And I thought you were talking about the
one
pump storage
down at
plant
pump storage
in Northfield. Anyway, what happens is you can get power from the turbine by putting the water through going down. Well, that's fine if you need electricity, but what happens if you've got too much electricity on the grid? You run the turbine backwards and it pushes all that water back uphill again.
That's what the picture shows.
That's what it shows. The white arrows going up in the lower part are what the flow of water during a low demand time. The black arrows going down are the flow of water during high demand time. The fact is you're going to lose power by doing this because it's not 100% efficient. You will use more electricity than you produce, but
it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. You're going to be using electricity that you buy at maybe 2 cents per kilowatt hour, and you're going to be providing electricity that you sell at maybe 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So this thing down in Northfield has been doing this, and there's two things about the plant in Northfield that I want to mention.
Yeah.
And that is, I've talked to people in Northfield who live in Northfield who were unaware of the fact that that pumped storage station was there. The second thing is...
It really disrupts everything.
Yeah. The second thing is, and I've talked to people who knew that there was a park there, but they didn't know that it was also a power station.
Well, it keeps a low profile. I mean,
it does.
You're driving down... By the way, I'll mention how to get there.
Yeah.
You're going to just cross the river over into Hinsdale.
Yep.
And the road takes you south. Okay, and then the road bends and it goes toward the east, takes you into Hinsdale proper.
Yep.
Okay, at that point,
Route 63.
Route 63 starts.
Yeah.
You take Route 63 south, it'll take you right to the Northfield station, which you can identify by the fact that there's a huge solar
field across the street from it. But the second thing that I want to point out about this invisible, almost non-existent power station is that aside from the fact that nobody realizes that it's there unless they are told, had a maximum capacity that was just almost exactly double the capacity of the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. This is over a gigawatt this thing could produce. This has a capacity that is like a large modern nuclear power plant at maximum capacity.
When they're using it. And it's not the only one in the area. There's another one in Reedsboro.
Yeah.
And there's another one right next to it in Rowe. Rowe is in Massachusetts, Reedsboro's in Vermont.
Yeah. And
they put them back in there the 30s.
Yeah.
Been there a long time.
We should probably move on.
Yeah, we should.
I'm having fun with this, and we could talk all day about it. But, you know, we have another article from Clean Technica. That one, by the way, was from Science Alert. I said that. Okay, what's the title for the one from Clean Technica?
Global lithium-ion battery planned capacity grows 4% in a single month.
Wow.
Wow.
In just 1 month, the plant, and we have to be careful to make sure that people understand what this actually means. The planned pipeline for 2023 battery factory capacity jumped by 43 gigawatt hours, adding over 4% to the global total.
Global total.
Which is a 50% annualized growth. The planned annual output by 2023 will cross the 1,000 gigawatt hour capacity. Of capacity, over 2/3 of that will be in China. Okay, what we're talking about here is the capacity of the factories making batteries, and it is the total capacity of the batteries they produce is the way it's being expressed. So what they're saying is the factories are being built really fast. That's a concise way of saying it, I think.
Well, I think the bottom line is that the people who make decisions about these things are looking at the inevitability of electric cars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, electric cars, but also electric batteries for the grid. Because the batteries for the grid, the batteries for households, the batteries for cars, all are made of the same little bitty,
little tiny
power
billions
cells.
of them.
Yeah, billions of them. And you know, if you look at the Tesla factory, it starts with those little guys.
Oh, yeah.
And those little guys can wind up in a place like the Hornsdale Power Reserve in South Australia, or the new one going into Florida, 400 megawatts, or they can go into a 5 kilowatt thing that you've got in your garage. So
well, we got another picture coming up.
We do indeed.
Why don't you give me that and I'll pull it up.
That's a big solar array.
I would say so.
And that is in
apparently it's in California.
California, yeah.
Corporate giants target 60 gigawatts of U.S. renewable energy. 60 gigawatts, my friends, is a lot of juice.
It's a lot.
A lot of juice.
It's a lot of juice. Okay, this is from Eddy.net. Announced late last week, 28th of March, REBA, which is the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance. I think that's it. I might have got it wrong.
That's what it is.
Okay. Has committed to creating 60 gigawatts of renewables in the United States by 2025. The alliance will seek to accelerate the uptake of clean energy in the country from the 6.2 gigawatts of corporate renewables deals that were issued in 2018. So what they want to do is, over the next 5 years, 6 years, they want to produce approximately 10 times as much contracts for renewable energy.
6.2, 60, yeah.
It's close.
Very close to 10.
But, you know, if you think about this, these are huge customers of utilities. And these customers of those utilities are saying, we don't want to deal with your power anymore. We want to get it from somebody else.
Well, that's what this Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance is.
Yeah.
They have formed a group to consolidate the purchasing.
Yep.
So instead of buying so many gigawatts, they're buying 5 times that from 5 different...
There's a lot of companies in this group. There's like
150 energy firms and 200 corporate energy buyers.
Okay.
This is not a small little...
No, but 150 energy firms, you're starting to see what's going on here. Part of this is energy producers, like Warren Buffett, and part of it is energy users, which could be Ford Motor Company. And they are talking straight to one another through this thing, which is a big buyers alliance, and the utilities...
In unity there is strength.
Oh, yeah. And what's happening is, as I think about this, this must be a monumental headache for people who make electricity using fossil fuels and nuclear power. A monumental headache.
Well, I don't think these guys even have an agenda. They're looking for the best deal.
They're looking for the best deal. I think some of them want to save the planet by, keeping carbon emissions down. But
well,
I mean,
participants
most of these
of
guys,
REBA account for 95% of all large-scale corporate renewable energy deals in the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, General Motors, Disney, Citibank, Johnson & Johnson, Google, Facebook, Walmart.
Yep. Big.
They're the biggest.
That's right. We are up to Tuesday, April 2nd, with an item from Energy Voice.
Plans for grid to operate on zero carbon power by 2025.
Again, we've got to be careful to make sure that people understand what's actually being...
Not our grid.
Well, not only is it not our grid, but this doesn't mean they're going to be zero carbon. What this means is they're going to be able
to. Yeah. That's a good point.
The UK electricity system will be able to operate at 100% clean power by 2025, the company responsible for balancing the grid announced. National Grid Electricity System Operator balances the system and ensures that customers have sufficient power supplies available. Now, when they're saying clean electricity, they're including nuclear here. And they are, I believe, including biomass, which gets me a little upset because I don't think that's clean, and they're cutting down forests in Georgia to provide mass for it.
We do it right here in Vermont.
We do. But what this means is there are going to be no coal, no gas, no natural gas, no oil being used for that grid.
So they're going after the carbon.
They're going after the carbon.
They're not necessarily going after the green.
Yeah. And what they're saying is not that it will be no coal. What they're saying is we're going to be able to balance the grid with none of that.
Yep.
Okay? Our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture here of a Shell oil rig.
Kind of a pretty picture.
It's a pretty picture of a okay. What do you got for a title?
A Shell oil rig.
No, that's the title of the picture.
That's the picture.
Yep.
Big Oil invested more than $1 billion on misleading climate lobbying since Paris.
$1 billion?
We just talked about this.
Yes, we did indeed.
Number.
The globe's 5 largest publicly traded oil and gas majors are ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, Chevron, BP, and Total. Together, they have invested over $1 billion in misleading climate-related branding and lobbying in the 3 years since the Paris Agreement. We have an item on Shell coming up. It's the item after next, actually.
Yep.
And we will talk more about it there.
Well, we got time because
have you got a takeaway on this one?
I do. The major narrative being peddled by all 5 oil and gas majors is the idea that there is an increased need for fossil fuel production so as to meet global energy demand.
Yes. Is that it, Tom?
Well, there's a little bit more there. The lobbying is overwhelmingly in conflict with the goals of the Paris Agreement and specifically designed to operate and expand fossil fuel operations.
Yep.
Well, they're not very transparent about it.
Yeah, as I said, we will get more on Shell in the next item after this one, but this one is an item from Clean Technica, and it's about Tesla.
Okay, breaking. Tesla takes 31% of Norway's total passenger auto sales in March.
Tesla got 31% of the total sales in March.
Well, yeah, there's some backstories there, but they still did it.
Yeah,
they still did it.
There's a bunch going on here. Tesla sold about 5,700 vehicles in Norway in March, out of a total 18,375 new passenger car sales for the month. That means Tesla got around 31% of the market. Fully electric cars as a whole amounted to over 58% of Norway's total new auto market. And I want to point out that's fully electric. If you count in plug-in hybrids and hybrids, you wind up having all but about 17%, which means that Tesla outsold 100% petroleum-based cars by a factor of almost 2.
Well, it's also interesting because they're not even buying the whole line of Tesla cars.
They're just buying
because
the Model 3.
they only sell one model.
It's just a Model 3. Everybody in Norway wants a Model 3.
Well, apparently they do.
Yeah, I guess they do. Well, they're
Tesla's
sold on these cars.
Unprecedented market share was achieved with only the high-end all-wheel drive and performance variants of the Model 3.
Yeah.
They're the only ones currently available in Norway. 2017, the Volkswagen Golf was the most sold passenger car in Norway.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, April 3rd, and we have an item from
the last day of the
CNN.
week, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And this
We
is
got a
the
picture
promised item from Shell, or about Shell.
I don't think that's Greta.
No, that's not Greta, and it's an English-speaking sign, and it actually is not even directly related to the story that we've got, but it is the picture that came with the story.
Okay.
So, you know.
Shell quits major U.S. oil lobby over climate change. Now,
Remember that oil lobby we were just talking about?
This is interesting.
It sure is. Royal Dutch Shell said it would not renew its membership in the American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers lobby next year because of, quote, material misalignment, end quote. In other words, we don't like the way you guys operate. That's what that means.
That's what they're saying.
The energy company says it disagrees with the group's policies, including those on climate change.
Well, Shell apparently believes in the Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, and this association apparently doesn't.
Yes.
And that seems to be what's going on.
Yep. And you know, I sat there when I read this, and I thought, okay, what they're doing is they're providing money for lobbyists in primarily Washington, D.C., but state capitals, and people who produce data for them, people who do support for them. There's a small industry that's involved here. And here is an industry that was supported by 5 big companies and probably some small companies. And Royal Dutch Shell was probably providing a hefty amount of the money that was going into that.
Well,
and
one of the things that's happening is Shell itself is under attack, I guess you'd call them, by activists.
Shell is under attack by activists, but Shell is also doing its own thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Shell is doing is they're saying, we want to be the biggest energy producer in the world.
We have said that on this show.
Yep, but they want to do it by using renewable energy.
Yeah, which is interesting.
They
very, very much interesting.
They are putting up a bunch of EV charging stations all over Europe. They're really getting into this renewable energy thing. And
well, it's a gamble. I think it's a good gamble, but it's a gamble.
now we've seen Dutch oil and natural gas, which is the one we call Dong, which everybody called Dong, and it isn't called Dong anymore.
Not anymore. It's what is it? Ørsted.
Ørsted.
Yeah,
that's right. And Dutch oil and natural gas went out of the oil and natural gas business, which is why they changed their name.
That makes sense to me.
Absolutely. Well, Royal Dutch Shell may do the same thing. I don't know. And you know who else might do it? BP.
Think so?
I don't.
Well, you know,
they're
if
not,
these guys have their finger on the pulse, and you know they do, they can see what's going on. And
what they're trying to do is come up with a business plan. And Dong came up with a business plan that said, we're not going to sell oil and natural gas anymore.
Yep.
And, excuse me, Shell is, I think, basically doing the same thing. And the other companies, well, ExxonMobil has been in denial for a long time.
Yes, they have.
Chevron.
And we know that they've known an awful lot that they're not telling us.
Oh, yeah.
That has come out.
Yep. And I think, honestly...
And for a long time, too.
I think that there are people who belong in prison over that.
I wouldn't bet against that.
I mean...
Are they going to go? We don't know, but they belong there.
I think it depends on how long they hold off in their denial.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Rex Tillerson is going to go to prison necessarily, but I think that he was one of the people who was in denial, I suspect.
Okay.
But, you know, he has had a... He's tried to see what was going on and then react accordingly. But, you know, the kids who are following Greta Thunberg are getting really, really angry. And
they seem to be, don't they?
Yeah. And, you know, these are kids who are in their teens now. They're going to be voting in a couple of years. And what's the effect of their being, you know, in the American political venue? What are they going to do? They're not going to be following the lead of
they've already staked out
ExxonMobil.
their claim. You know.
Yeah, and you know,
we know where they're going.
We know where they're going, and you know, giving them the Heritage Foundation's lines or the Cato Institute's lines or the State Policy Network or whatever, you know, is not going to be. It's not going to be easy for those people to do that. Okay, should we move on, or do you have more?
we got a good one coming up.
Okay.
In Germany, renewables covered 54% of the net power production for the month of March.
They can't have done that, Tom. You can't have a grid balanced with more than 5% renewable production. You know that.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, 10%. I'm sorry, Tom. I said 5, I said 10. I meant 20. Okay.
I was confused by this because it seems to be some sort of a technical error on the website.
There
but
may
I'll
be.
let you read it.
Okay. Germany has set a record in March as more than half of its power was generated from renewables, primarily solar and wind. In the first quarter, renewables accounted for 45.4% of net electricity generating, according to an energy chart published by Fraunhofer ISE. Now, this is from PV Magazine International, and you'll remember that last year, according to the article that we had earlier in this show, they did 33%, which was, what was it, 12% more than the previous year. They've jumped from 33 to 45. And that was in March that they went to 45.
There seems to be some conflicting numbers on this website.
There are conflicting numbers.
I was confused by it. I'm still confused by it.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that I've been seeing says no, it isn't 45. They don't say no, it isn't 45.
It's 54.
They say it's 54. And honestly, I think the 45.4 is a misprint. I think they mean 54.4. The title says 54.
I think you're right.
And the other sites where I've seen this come through, they all say that Germany got 54% of its net production. Now, it was. Oh, I'm sorry. No, both figures are right. I just realized what's happening here. The 54% is for March. The 45.4% is for the first quarter.
Oh.
Okay, so the 45.4 is for 3 months. The 54 is for 1 month.
In the first quarter,
this is an upward trend.
You caught it.
It is a very strong upward trend.
Absolutely.
And I don't, you know, it's not going to be 54% for the year, probably, because even though they're adding more renewables, March is the month in which renewables have the greatest power. It may be more in April, but by the time the summer is through, you know, the winds are down, solar is declining. You're not getting as much from rain, but you know, it'll be a bigger number next year,
I think.
Okay,
well,
we have one more item.
This is our last item,
and
we got a picture coming up.
We have a picture, and this is a picture of a GE Haliade X offshore wind turbine, and this is from CNN.
GE bets on offshore wind as fossil fuels business stumbles.
Yep. Now look at that picture, Tom. On top of the nacelle of that machine is an area that you could walk around in, and it has.
Looks like you could have a pretty good sized party up there.
I was going to say you could have a picnic table up there and invite a bunch of friends. That is big.
Very big.
That nacelle is.
Well, this one, the Haliade X, is the biggest one, and that doesn't exist yet.
They have one up, I think.
They're talking about. Well, we don't know when this was really written, but they're talking about building a prototype.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And it's going to be 12 megawatts.
12 megawatts. The 10 megawatt one is the one that they have a prototype.
That's operational already.
And they have actually
they're taking orders for that.
They've taken an order for that. At GE Power, which makes and services natural gas and coal-fired power plants, orders have fallen precipitously. Because of this, GE's stock has lost 2/3 of its value since the end of 2016. This is huge. This is end of 2016 was 15 months ago.
GE's in trouble. They've made some bad decisions.
They've made and they've been trying to pull their fat out of the fire. So GE is turning to investing in offshore wind power and renewable energy. And what's happening here, and we've seen this in other places too. We saw it, Wärtsilä, for example, said Wärtsilä, which is a big turbine manufacturer in Finland.
Okay.
Wärtsilä makes the biggest diesel engines in the world.
Do they really? Wow. Never heard of them either.
I read the specs on these things. They had when a ship was launched that had a Wärtsilä diesel engine powering it, and it was a direct drive.
Wow.
Can you imagine such a thing? A direct drive diesel engine powering a ship. But the cylinders were so big
it had been.
that if you want to throw one in there,
inside of the cylinder.
I was going to say you could throw a sleeping bag into the cylinder and sleep in there.
Sure.
And this thing is operating at like 300 RPMs or something like that. So it's a very slow engine, but it's just turning around a propeller. But the thing is, here is Wärtsilä saying, we're not selling turbines. And what they were talking about was saying, aha, our future is going to be in selling natural gas turbines that will be for peaking plants. And I was sitting there reading that, saying to myself, what is the matter with these guys?
They're missing the boat.
What are they thinking? Because those peaking plants produce power that's far more expensive than the power from batteries.
Well, this article is from CNN again.
Yes.
Okay, and like all CNNs, they're usually worth watching.
Yep.
And in particular, in this one, there's a video about the world's largest offshore wind farm opening.
Yeah.
It's only a minute long, and it's quite interesting.
Yep.
And it happens to be the Walney extension, which we've already seen.
We had a picture of it.
In the Irish Sea, 659 megawatts, 87 turbines, 55 square miles.
Yep.
200,000 football fields. It's the size of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is wow. Okay, we should mention.
Well, we got a minute and 40.
We have a minute and a few seconds.
There's a couple of takeaways from here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
The Haliade X is the world's largest and most powerful offshore wind turbine. That's this one we just were.
Well, let me put it back up. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about 10s. This is a 12.
This is a 12.
Meanwhile, there's a collegiate group.
Yeah.
I got the name. University of Virginia. Currently designing a turbine that would be capable of producing 50 megawatts.
Yes.
The ultra-large two-bladed turbine designed to mimic a palm tree's ability to bend in the wind could reach 1,600 feet in height. That's a third of a mile.
Yeah, it's like it's not twice as tall as the Empire State Building, but
it's bigger than the Empire State Building.
Way bigger than the Empire State Building. Although I don't think they're going to have rotating restaurants up at the top.
You don't think, huh?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, I wanted to mention before we go that we are hoping to have, right after this show, a meeting of the Brattleboro Energy Committee's
they should be showing up by
group.
about now.
Yeah, they should be. The working group for microgrids.
Microgrids, right?
And so...
Why a microgrid?
Huh?
Why a microgrid?
Well, watch the show and find out.
Good point.
Yeah. And so we're hoping that will be up in the coming week and people can watch it as well. And we should say goodbye.
It's interesting, by the way, to look at this website, because there's a picture of the prototype for the University of Virginia's.
Yes.
Well, I sent you a copy of it. I sent you a picture of it.
Put us up, Tom, and we'll wave goodbye. It's time to go.
I can do that.
Yep. Have a good week.
Goodbye, people.
Come back, watch the other show.